All right. So today, as we're focusing on the circles, we're trying to just increase our understanding of restorative circles and how schools can benefit from integrating this powerful practice. And we want to obviously increase your skills to facilitate a variety of restorative circles, promoting respect for diversity and multicultural competence. So yesterday we came up with these agreements. And so as we just go over them right now, I think what I'm going to do is, let's see, Laura, would you mind just reading these off for us, please?
Sure. Confidentiality. Create a safe space for all. Acceptance of where people are today. Listen to each other. Brave, non-judgmental space with grace. Open-mindedness to others' ideas. Assume good intentions. Trauma-informed approach. Open communication. Speak from the heart.
All right. Thank you, Laura. So now I want to ask you to see if like on these three quotes here, I want you to just go ahead and actually maybe what I could do is ask one of our colleagues, and I'm going to see, Adeseli, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Adeseli, would you be willing to read through these three quotes for us?
The first one, there can be no vulnerability without risk. There can be no community without vulnerability. There can be no peace and ultimately no life without community. Circles create soothing space where even reticent people can realize that their voice is welcome. If people stand in a circle long enough, they'll eventually begin to dance.
All right. Thank you, Adeseli. So, Adeseli, if you had to choose one of those three quotes, which that resonates with you, that you connect with in some ways, which one would it be?
Right away, I knew as soon as I was reading it, it's the first one, the one with vulnerability. There could be no vulnerability without risk. And there can be no community without vulnerability. Absolutely.
Absolutely. And what is it about that quote, though? I would like, can you speak a little bit more about that? If you're, just to expand on either the vulnerability, the community aspect, or what is it?
I think for us to grow as people and to grow as a community, we must be open to be vulnerable.
Absolutely. I think
growth requires vulnerability.
Definitely. Thank you. And so one thing we've noticed is that, when we are starting to develop circles with our students or with colleagues, oftentimes in the beginning, they're not feeling the safety yet. So they're not willing to be vulnerable yet, right? And that's okay. What we do is we know that it takes a while to create trust. And so that is on us to be able to create that kind of environment where students feel safe when they know that when they say certain things, they're not going to be put down, they're not going to be judged. And then they can start to go, okay, this is a safe place, right? And then we start to build that community. And Casey, what about you? What is the one that resonates more with you?
I was also going to say the first one, just because as soon as I heard it read, it really resonated with me. But for me, especially the last part of it, like the idea of there really being no life without community, because I think so much of just who we are and what we do as humans is just so much in community. So I think that part of the quote really stood out to me. And then pointing out how you can't have that without risk is also really important. Just understanding that like it is a risk for students and us and everyone to be vulnerable. So also kind of being able to understand that it is a risk to ask for these things to happen, but that they're still vitally important.
That's awesome. Thank you, Casey, for that. It was great. And one thing yesterday, not in the virtual training, but in a face-to-face training, I was discussing with teachers and educators about the origins of restorative practices, that actually it lives in all of us, because even though we say it's indigenous based, we don't limit that to just Native Americans. It's African, European, everywhere else, right? And so that at some point our ancestors all came together in circle, in community around a fire, or whatever it was that brought them together. It was those people that began to cooperate and collaborate and share information together. And they're the ones that survived, right? And that's why we're here. We're here because our ancestors did what Casey was talking about. They understood the value of community. So thank you, Casey, for that. And then I wanted to also ask Julie, would you be willing to let us know what resonates with you on this?
Well, I'm going to join the club and also choose the first quote. For me, I've been, as a teacher on special assignment, I'm working with teachers, helping them with social emotional learning, and thinking about ways in order to build that trust relationship. And so being vulnerable myself and letting them know, I'm not perfect. I don't know everything there is to know about this stuff. And then hopefully they'll feel safer to open up as well.
That is really a great point, Julie. And we have a saying, we say vulnerability, or I should say, we say authenticity breeds authenticity. But of course, when you're authentic, you're also becoming vulnerable, right? You're really showing who you are. And yet that authenticity, people can feel that. They sense it. They sense the emotion part of it, and it tends to help people. If they see you, Julie, being vulnerable, it helps them go, like what they're looking at. They're going, let me just see if she's going to be judged after. Is everything going to be okay? No, she seems okay, and so they then might add in their own kind of vulnerability as well. So thank you for that. All right. And then, why circles? And it really connects with even why restorative practices, that indigenous wisdom. We're basically trying to restore some of the ancient wisdom that exists in all of us, right? It's just restoring it and kind of bringing it out again. And it's always about strengthening and honoring relationships. And I was working with a school just a couple of days ago that they're a big high school, but they just decided positive relationships are going to be of their highest priority. They said, that's going to be what we say. That's what we're going to work towards this whole next year. Of course, they're going to do academics, but they are committed to making sure that positive relationships build there. And we say in the circle, that's an opportunity to truly see each other and value each other, right? And then everybody's responsible and accountable to each other. And it definitely promotes engagement and ownership versus, for example, in every class that I had when I was in K through 12, we always sat just in rows. And people like me, not that I was a real bad person or anything. I just mean people like me that wanted to go under the radar and didn't want people to call on them. We sat in the back, right? We were like, and it that promoted us being disengaged, right? And not owning our education. So when you're in a circle, it's very hard to escape. You're being present to people. And so we're going to have you watch this video. What I want to do is ask you to identify 3 circle strategies that the teacher uses. Okay.
Before I started doing circles in my class, I found it very difficult to start the academic day. Students had things that they wanted to share that had happened with them, things they were concerned about, and I had a very long line of about 30, 25 to 30 students every morning wanting to share personal time with me. It made it absolutely impossible to start the academic day. After the presentation of circles in our staff development, I knew that would be the best way to have each student share and be heard in the classroom. Here at Glenview, every teacher holds circles for classroom management, for resolving conflicts, and also to involve students in activities. Every day, I begin with mindfulness to really get the students focused and centered and ready for learning. I'm going to need you to either close your eyes or to look gently at the ground. The next thing I do in Circle is a check-in with a scale from 1 to 5. This allows me to assess whether or not they're ready to learn. Okay, I'm a 5, and I have a lot of things I need to get done today, but I'm looking forward to getting them done. Would anyone else like to share why you're a 5 today?
Today I'm a 5 because I can't wait for Spirit Week.
I'm a 1 because my head still hurts from Sunday.
In order to keep order in a circle, we use a talking piece, which is a symbolic piece to signify who has the floor, who's able to speak. At the beginning of the year, I asked the students what topics they feel as a class we need to discuss. The students write the topics and we place them in the cup. Our next topic is going to be about stop bullying. How can you stop bullying?
But I think since most bullies bully through pain, you can try to see if you can help or make them feel better. If you see someone getting bullied, stand up for that person and tell the bully firmly and strong to stop bullying.
I like the idea of not being a bystander, because that's somewhat being part of the bullying process. If you see it happening and you don't say anything, but it takes a lot of bravery, a lot of courage to say, hey, that's not right. As part of a program called Restorative Justice, circles are also used to resolve conflicts that come up during the school day.
Sometimes at recess, Sydney and Imani would come over and just start talking about us and saying mean things about Janae.
Is it your job to make Janae's job at school hard?
No.
So you choose to either be the bully that you're being or to be someone's ally and make a better choice.
I just want to kind of ask, maybe we could just, I could kind of go around and just ask if some of you, maybe even just one thing that you saw within there that was maybe a good strategy, a good circle strategy. So Mary, can you hear me, Mary? I guess.
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh, great. Thank you. Yeah. So what did you notice in that video that might be a strategy, a circle strategy?
I like the idea that the teacher had the students pick the topics. That makes it more relatable and get them engaged more and willing to talk about something that they chose to talk about.
Absolutely. I agree with that. Thank you, Mary. Tamara, what about you? What was maybe one thing that you noticed?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I saw the talking piece, of course, but I love the cup with the topics, and you never know when your topic is going to come up as a student. So it's engaging in that way. And then I always have trouble coming up with circle topics sometimes. So I just love it. Yes.
Yes. And you're right, Tamara. And somebody asked me yesterday in a training, they said, is it okay for students to come up with the topics? I was like, yes, but you all, as a teacher, you're always going to review them, and then you can put them in the cup. So thank you, Tamara. And then let's see, Candida, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. So what was one thing that you saw in that video?
I appreciated how the teacher spoke on starting with a mindfulness activity, because she did talk about how it's really hard for her to start the academic day. And I think it's important to bring students to a place of, being calm, being relaxed, being in the right mind space to start the circle and the conversation.
Thank you, Candid. I agree with you. That was quite amazing to see little kids practicing mindfulness that way. How about Michelle Galvez? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. I hope you can hear me. My mic is kind of off and on.
Oh yeah, you're coming through pretty loud.
Okay. I like the part when the group for dealing with conflict. That's a pretty good one. Sometimes when I have it, I really don't put the kids into a circle, but that is a really good way to dissolve the conflict, is putting everybody into the group. That's what I would implement.
Absolutely, Michelle. Thank you for that. And I noticed that as well. It was really powerful to see how she brought them together. And then the people that are doing harm have to hear from the others and how difficult it is, how painful it is for them. And Melinda, what about yourself? What's something that may have resonated for you?
Well, I did like starting with the mindfulness activity to kind of get everybody on the same page and kind of get their head in the game. I really liked the topics in a cup because I think it's so much more effective to have the kids come up with the topics. And, when you have their buy-in, it just makes such a difference. So I'm definitely going to do that this year.
All right, great. Thank you, Melinda.
Mm-hmm.
And so, okay, so that's good. I'm so glad. Thank you, everybody, for actually, watching and engaging and thinking and reflecting on maybe one thing you could pull out from that might be helpful to you. And so I want to share this screen again. Then when I think Tamara had mentioned the talking piece, and of course, you can use, there's a lot of things you can use for talking pieces, right? You can use like little stuffed animals or, a stress ball or, something like that. Sometimes people will use something that is kind of connected with their school or their, it could be the animal that they use to relate to or whatever it be. It could be symbolic. It doesn't have to be, but if what we're doing now because of COVID, and if you are face-to-face, sometimes what people are doing is they're using like a little, like a tennis ball, and they're asking people just to pass it with their feet, right? So if a person gets the talking piece, they just put their foot on it, and then it's their turn to speak. And then we try to teach only that person that has the talking piece actually is the person speaking. So nobody's responding to them or anything like that. It's just their turn to speak. And it really does create a lot more order in a circle. And now this is just something that I do, but I'm not saying you have to do this. It's just maybe something to reflect on. What I do is I always teach people to say thank you when they receive a talking piece. I've found it to be I found it to be really helpful because they have to acknowledge the person that's passing them the talking piece. Because I've noticed when I don't do that, what happens is people will just kind of talk, take the talking piece and then sometimes they're real excited to talk and they don't even look at the person. They just kind of grab it from them and it doesn't feel right to me. So we also are doing a thing called a virtual talking piece. And so it might be like a ball of energy, and you can get kind of fun with it. And so as you're holding the ball, that's when you speak. And then when you pass it to the next person, you just, pass it to them and then they have a chance to receive it. And it's, people they're laughing a little bit, whatever, but it's kind of bringing some joy, but it's also reminding people we're still using a talking piece. So what we're going to look at is, we have these different types of circles. And one of the things that's important that we've learned is that the proactive community building circles should be 80% of the time that you use, right? Where you're building understanding, commonalities, and empathy to humanize and strengthen relationships and a sense of belonging and importance in the community. So remember that, please. It should, you know, a lot of times people will look at restorative justice practices and they immediately go to, okay, I'm going to use this to intervene with kids who are not behaving. But they have to understand that the community building, relationship building is the foundation that the rest of the house is built on. So if you're not willing to invest time in the proactive community building part of it, you're not going to be very successful in the rest of it, in the what we call the responsive, which should be 20%, right? Used for problem solving, can be used to address harm in the community. And it may involve all that were involved in the harm. But those, it's really important that we understand that we're always trying to reintegrate people back into that proactive, you know, kind of those activities. We want to reintegrate them back into that positive relationship. We don't want kids to think that every time there's a circle, it's like, uh-oh, somebody did something wrong. No, circles should have this positive connotation of fun and connection and learning, finding commonalities, and experiencing that in Lakesh, right? That hey, that person's like me. I can relate to what they said. They find commonalities that way. They humanize. So we have like sequential circles, like, you know, where you have a circle and every single one, like that's where you pass a talking piece and it goes around sequentially around the circle. And then there's the non-sequential. And that's when it's kind of like a popcorn style. And I'll show you a few slides to kind of illustrate it. And also a fishbowl, which is usually like a circle, a small circle within a larger circle, where the larger circle is kind of learning from the inner circle. And so the sequential go around is kind of like this. It goes either, it can go to the right or it can go to the left, right? It's not like some people will say, hey, it's got to go to the left because that's where your heart is kind of tilting. And that's fine. I mean, if that's what is really important to you. But the reality is I've held many, many circles and I've gone both different ways. And I usually do that because I'm making a strategic decision. And sometimes I've gone to the left a couple of times and I'm like, okay, I need to now go to the right. I need to kind of let them get a time that their voice is first heard. So just think about it. Think about how you want to do your circles when it comes to that time. The good thing about a sequential circle is everybody gets that real chance where the spotlight is on them, where they have the talking piece and they can say pass, and that's okay. But even when they say pass, I'll usually say, okay, thank you. You know, I always thank every single person. I acknowledge them to just let them know I value you. You're important to me. And so, but when it goes sequentially, every single person has that opportunity, right? Like they could never say, well, I never really could say something. No, they can. And then so the non-sequential circle is like what you see here. It's in a popcorn style. And sometimes people still use a talking piece. They toss it or they roll it. They can roll a ball across the circle. And it can be structured in a lot of different ways, but this way you got to know this. When you're doing popcorn, your most articulate, vociferous people will be speaking and the other ones will shy back. They will tend to just, no, I'm more comfortable just letting them do the talking. And I understand, that that's a reality, but that's why I think sometimes you want to call on those people that are the voices that aren't usually brought out most of the time. And it's okay if they say, no, I'm not comfortable right now. It's okay. It's okay. I just want you to know that your voice is important here. You are important. And this community needs your ideas as well, right? You're just reminding people, sometimes people are really uncomfortable, especially with public speaking. And so you're just giving people that chance to grow and to find out that this is a safe place. So the Fishbowl Circle is something I've done several times. And what I was kind of like, I really enjoyed, one of my colleagues took this when he came to our training. He took it to his high school, and he decided to put some students in the middle, as you see in this graphic. And then he interviewed the students in the middle, and then he had teachers and staff on the outside. And he just said to the outside, all I want you to do is listen. Just listen to what they're saying. And so what happened was it gave the students a chance to just air out some of their feelings, but also it gave them a chance to educate the adults, and for the adults to kind of become the student in some ways, to become the learner. The times that I've done this, I've also used this often for brainstorming. And what happens is the inner circle, they're volunteers, from the whole circle. They're volunteers that will help me to brainstorm about an issue. Like I might say something like, I want to come up with a lot of different ideas about how we can show more value to our students on the campus. And so, people agree that they have at least one idea, and then they come in the circle, and I'm in there with them. And oftentimes what I'll do is I will step out and I leave an empty chair where it says empty chair is optional. And I ask the inner circle to have their conversation about that one by one, to give ideas. I have somebody on the outside taking notes, noting down their ideas. And then on the empty chair, if their discussion creates kind of some ideas in you and you're sitting on the outside, you can go sit in that chair, in the optional chair. And as soon as the person speaking is done, it's your turn. You give your idea, and then you go back out to the outside and leave that chair for another person when they want to come in. I have found it to be pretty fascinating how much it works to brainstorm amazing, positive, great ideas that we typically oftentimes would type up and send to everybody, and people really appreciated that. So we always say, as a facilitator, you want to be authentic. As we said, authenticity breeds authenticity. And a lot of times as a facilitator, it's important that you're willing to share first and open up a bit, be vulnerable. And of course, you're always maintaining professional boundaries, but it's okay for you to share things that are personal stories. If you heard the teacher, she was saying, yeah, when she was young, she wanted to actually leave home. She wasn't old enough yet though, right? She had to wait, and she's glad that she waited because now she realizes she wasn't ready actually at that age. But she shared that with the young people that I'm sure a number of them may have experienced some of that, so they could relate to their teacher as like a human being. And then, you're obviously supposed to try to maintain the agreements. That's why it's always important when you're going to start a circle, you make sure everybody kind of agrees, okay, here's our agreements. Is everybody good with this? Sometimes I'll even ask, does anybody need to add anything or any questions on any of these? Just give them that opportunity to clarify. And then if, it's unusual that it gets to this where it's really becomes an unproductive circle. But once in a while, you do need to kind of intervene and say, look, It just seems to me like for today, it's not a good idea for us to be in circle, because it seems a lot of negativity is coming out to each other, and we're not in circle to harm each other at all. That's never going to be allowed in our school. So the circle is really about community building, relationship building, not destroying relationships. And then the one good thing about being a facilitator, it really helps you remember to facilitate versus just talking to the participants. So your role is to try to bring out the wisdom from the circle and have the circle experience like, wow, I heard from so-and-so today and it just reminded me of this, or I learned from this person. You want the community to begin to recognize that they can learn so much from the community, and that we're all learners and we're all teachers if we just allow ourselves to do that. So if you all would, though, during this break, try to just go and find something that's meaningful to you, a significant object. And I'll just give you a quick example. My son had given me this like thing, it says blessings on it, right? And it's just a rock. And my son gave it to me, and it was just meaningful coming from him because, you know, he's a boy, and a lot of times boys aren't the most thoughtful gift givers, but this was a very thoughtful thing that he did for me. And I realized he was thinking of me because he knows I'm a spiritual person of faith. And I thought, wow, he really went out of his self and thought of me. And so it's a significant thing. So what I'm going to do is ask you, it doesn't have to be exactly like this or anything. I'm just saying something that the object tells something about you, something physical that will tell them something about you. Okay. So if you don't mind during your break, just bring it. And then, because I have an activity we're going to do.
Here, I collect roosters. And this summer, well, before summer started, my youngest son graduated from high school and he went on a road trip. And so when he was on his road trip, he picked that up for me. And so I just thought it was really sweet and thoughtful of him, you know, while he's out with his friends, having this, you know, life-changing event, you know, leaving high school, going on to college and having fun with his friends and whatnot. He thought of me. So anyway, it's in my kitchen and I love to cook for my family. So it's always there staring me in the face when I'm cooking. So.
Right. Thank you, Melinda. That's beautiful. It kind of reminds me of my own little thing with my son. So thank you. And Melissa Schulz, what about you? Would you be willing to share?
Yeah. So I grabbed a book, Ella Enchanted. So it's not my original copy because that one has been loved to death and the spine is just absolutely destroyed. So it's not that one. But my cousin started reading it to me when I was 7 or 8 or something. And I've always been a reader, so I had a hard time picking which book just in general. But then I realized, you know what, any childhood book that's dear to my heart is going to work for this. And I think it's a lot of things, but I think, you know, especially as a young kid, stories were so important to me and they continue to be really important to me. And I think high quality, like children's stories are still one of the things I'm really interested in and passionate about. And it's just a comfort for me too. You know, if I'm having a hard day, I have like a host of like 6 to 10 children's books that I come back to as like my kind of safe return to reminding myself of things that I like, and it really grounds me. So it's that connection piece with family and also just a passion and a comfort.
Ah, that's beautiful. Thank you, Melissa. And Pedro, can you hear me? Were you able to find something that you wouldn't mind sharing for a object?
Oh, yeah. Thank you so much for the opportunity. So I used to be in charge of assemblies. And so being in charge of assemblies, you have to do a lot of inspiration. And I've been known to say silly things. And so I used to always, when I was talking in the assemblies, I used to ask for a giraffe. and hoped that somebody would bring me a giraffe and people would laugh at me and so forth. And so that's what I had asked for. And then the other piece is that I had a student who was always kicked out of class for discipline. At the end, he had ADH, and so he just couldn't stay still. But he was always in my office, so I got to know him very well. One day I came to work in my office. He's sitting there and he said, "Can I talk to you?" And I said, "Sure." And I said, "What's going on?" And he started to cry. And he said, "We're moving to Modesto, but I don't want to go. But my parents want me to go." And I said, "Let it out. Just let it out." And he did. And he thanked me for, making space for him and always just that friendship there. And on his way out, he pulled out a bag. He goes, "I brought something for you." The giraffe.
Goodness. Wow.
And it just goes that, sometimes when we, as educators, when we're out there talking, there's always a few that listen. And that's inspirational for me.
Beautiful. Thank you, Pedro. That's beautiful. Okay, Laura, what about you? What's anything there?
Thank you for sharing, Pedro. This is a fun activity. I chose a kitsugi bowl. So kitsugi is the Japanese art of repairing broken pictures or glass using lacquer dusted with gold or silver or platinum. And the concept behind kitsugi is that something that's broken, rather than discarding it, you can mend it and make it, and then it's therefore more beautiful with the etchings of gold. And I love the metaphor. I think it's a beautiful, very poetic way of thinking of many things. And I had the privilege of doing this particular kitsugi bowl with my mother and sister during a really hard time in my life. As a young woman, and it was not only powerful for myself, it was powerful for my mother and sister, and it really bonded us in a way that felt unique. So
that's beautiful. Thank you, Laura. That's excellent. And then I just wanted to point you to the chat where Michelle Galvez says, I have this little book that my daughter gave me for Father's Day. She was 3 years old. Now she's 13. When she was 3 years old, she told me that I was everything, no matter that it was Father's Day, I was the whole world to her. Oh my God. See, there I go. I'm already starting to feel the emotion.
Well, that was my share too.
Are you serious?
Yeah, this is a postcard I got for my son for Father's Day because I was a single mother. And, they do these in school. And so I felt kind of bad for him that he was made to send a thing for Father's Day, but he's so sweet. He just wrote, "Dear Mom, I know it's Father's Day, but I just want you to know that how much I love you." Wow. And then he actually mailed it from school, and it's 20 years old and it stays on my refrigerator.
Of course. Oh my God. How could
And then it just reminds me we did it. He's like 27 now and we made it. So
way to go. Congratulations to both you and to Michelle.
Yeah.
And Casey, what about yours? Thank you, Tamara.
Yeah, so I found this book. It's a really old, it was actually my grandpa's American literature textbook from college that he gave to me when I graduated with my English degree. And it's just like a really fun, super old textbook. And he had like an old test of his in it, like a paper bubble-in test that he's just had in there from college. Like his name is written in it on the front page. And it's just really special to me because he's like the reason that I am a teacher and that so many of me is like from him. So it's just kind of a physical representation of that, I guess.
God, that is beautiful. What a gift. Beautiful. Thank you, Casey. So, Robert, what about you?
Thank you for sharing, Casey. Let me see if this shows up. Oh, is that showing up?
Yes.
It's just an old A's hat. I grew up in San Jose, and it was always my dad always made us a point to go out to A's games. He would take me, my brother, my siblings, usually on like a promo day. They'd give away like a jersey or a backpack or a bobblehead or something like that. And that's kind of something that stuck with me and all my siblings. We just making a point to go out to games, make a day out of it, tailgate, break friends. Like regardless if people like baseball or not, there's just something nice about going to a baseball game, and it's something that definitely a part of me for sure.
Great memory, Robert. Thank you for sharing that. And Julie, what about you?
So I'm sharing this bracelet. I don't know if you can see. One of my friends gave it to me for my birthday one year, and I moved away to San Diego about 5 years ago, and she is just one of those people. She still goes out of her way to stay in touch with me and meet up with me, and I'm actually going to be meeting with her and another friend at the end of this month to have lunch. So it's really just a reminder of how special our relationship is.
That's beautiful. There you go. That you guys live that in Lakesh, right? Yes. And Joel, what about you?
I have this little paper that I keep in my wallet. It was from my nephew. He gave it to me because like 5 years ago, they moved away from San Diego to Washington. So on the day he moved, he gave me this little paper that says, I love you, Joel and Carla. And then, I just keep it in my wallet, and then sometimes when I miss him, I'll like pull it out and then just remember, the times we had when he was here in San Diego.
It's powerful, Joel. Thank you for sharing that. Obviously, you have that in Lakesh with him. You're connected. Thank you. And Erica, I just wanted to ask him. I know you don't have anything in your office, but is there something that you can think of at home that you would be willing to tell us about?
I mean, I have lots of things for my grandparents sitting around, but I'm trying to think sort of like an object that, So my grandmother used to make salad dressing in this. It's like an old China teacup. And so when she died, I kept that from the house, and I still make my salad dressing in that. So
that's awesome. What a great thing. Great connection to your really ancestor, huh? Beautiful. Thank you. And Mary Gillespie, can you hear us?
Sorry, yes, I can hear you. I'm in my classroom, but I will say that my classroom is the object because 4 years ago, I was a stay-home mom and didn't have a degree. And so being in my classroom reminds me that all the hard work that went into becoming a teacher and having my own classroom. And so here I am 4 years later in my own classroom, and I'm in the middle of my master's. And so I would say my classroom.
That's beautiful, Mary. I mean, really, what a powerful statement that is. And congratulations on everything you've accomplished.
Thank you.
Yeah. And so cool that you're serving with everything you accomplish, you're serving the community.
Thank you.
So Jennifer Calderon.
It's a little owl.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I love owls, and I have a tattoo of an owl, and a former coworker of mine, she really likes owls too. And then when I left that job, she gave that to me to kind of remember her, but to also just momentum for thank you for being so wise, because she I'd consult with her a lot, and I just I like it. It reminds me of the connection I had with her and with some of the other teachers at my old school. And it's just a really positive, loving gesture. So I like to have that around in my office.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing. And by the way, one of the things my daughter sent me this morning was an owl. She actually got a photo of an owl. And she said for her, it was like a spiritual experience because just something special there. So thank you for that connection. And then Candida, can you hear me?
My item that I like to use as a talking piece is my baby Groot. And it's special to me because my boyfriend and I, our first date, went to see Guardians of the Galaxy. And then afterwards, he gave me this. Most importantly, it's just super cute and the kids know what it is. So I think it's just something cool to bring into the classroom.
Oh, that's fantastic. Thank you, Candy. That's really cute too.
Thank
you. And Audrey Chavez, can you hear me?
Hi, yes. So I'm actually at my parents' house right now where I grew up, and I went to snoop in my room and I found my diary from 2008. So I was reading I was reading some little pages right now, and it took me on a little emotional roller coaster to see how I was so little and the things I would write and the things I would feel, and it made me reflect like just now. So that was pretty cute to find this.
What an awesome thing that you could, I mean, even that this activity drew you to that, and you get to kind of relive some of that, bring back those memories.
Yeah, I didn't know I had this. I was just like looking around.
It's wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. And then Alex Breed, can you hear me?
I just got this little, it's kind of hard to see. It's a little personalized bookmark that I got from one of my students last year. And it just says, thank you for being a part of my story. And I've just been using it in all the books I've been reading, just as kind of a reminder of how impactful we are to all of our students that we see, but also how lucky we are to be a part of so many different kids' stories, and how kind of like what Mary was saying, how far we've come to be where we are as teachers, and how much work we put into it, but also how grateful we are to be able to do what we do every day, and be impactful and be a part of someone's story. And I just love it because it's just so special, and because it's personalized, I just know that it's just a good reminder of why we do what we do and how important it is what we do.
Absolutely, Alex. Thank you. That's beautiful. Vanessa Cisneros, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right.
Hello.
Hello.
An object that's special to me would have to be my water bottle with the sticker on it. The sticker that has a quote on it that says "No te rajes," and translation, it means like don't give up. It's really like close to me because like there is some times where I have bad days, and like I just look at it. I have it with me at all times. I look at it, and it just like reminds me that I could just continue to like be doing my best and just like make it throughout the day.
Wow, that's powerful. And definitely don't give up. We got you here. So, and we appreciate the work you do.
Yes, thank you.
Anybody else from SBCS staff that would be willing to share your object?
Sorry.
Okay.
Hi. You might hear Eldred in the background because he's here.
Okay.
I don't really have anything from home that I have, but I do have this, and I really like it. I've had it for a while, and it says never stop learning because life never stops teaching. And I have it on my desk because it kind of reminds me just of the reasons of why I'm here, and why I'm here to work with these students, because I'm learning as well as I go. So I just like having it. It reminds me.
It's beautiful. We love that. And we always say that as a restorative practitioner, we're learners and teachers simultaneously. It's always happening, right? So thank you for that. Is there anybody else that we've forgotten? So we just want to thank everybody for just being so open and authentic with your sharing. That's what makes a centerpiece. It's the stories that go with the pieces, right? And we begin to go, hey, wow, when they're talking, I kind of find that commonality, that connection. And the more people that do that, it builds community. So you might want to think about doing something like that at some point, maybe towards the beginning of your semester as you all come back and things, to have some kind of activity where you actually ask the kids, hey, would you mind bringing something? You don't have to, but if you would, to bring kind of a significant piece from home that's meaningful to you. And then they bring it, and it's so beautiful to hear the different sharings, just like it was beautiful hearing all of ours. And it's good for the kids to hear each other because they begin to make connections, right? And the more that people do that, I always say the more people humanize, the less apt they are to hurt each other. Because it's easy for us to harm people when they're a stereotype, because they're kind of dehumanized. A stereotype is dehumanizing. And so when you keep them a stereotype, it's easy to hurt them. But when they become a human and you allow them in, what happens is they start to feel connected and they see themselves in the other person. That's exactly what we want and what we need, in some ways desperately, in our communities and in our schools.